We've all seen them. Freight trains rolling along at high speed, carrying all kinds of freight from one place to another in long trains that sometimes stretch to over a mile in length. For many model railroaders, that image forms the basis of their railroad modeling. After all, a train is supposed to be going someplace, isn't it? Of course it is. But not every railroad crew moves a mile-long freight train over a couple hundred miles of track. This is the Ohio Central Railroad's Youngstown, Ohio headquarters. Every day, 3 crews hit the rails to deliver the goods to customers who depend on the Ohio Central for timely service. This is a different world from the high-speed, high-profile mainline trains that we see almost every day. This is railroading one car at a time, and is really where the business starts and ends, servicing the retail customer. We're going to tag along with the West End crew as they call on several customers to make a few deliveries and pickups. Our engineer today is Porter Collins. Porter's day typically begins by starting his locomotive and giving it a good inspection inside and out. Our conductor today is Tom Kramer. It's Tom's job to check the computer printouts that tell him the makeup of his train so he can determine where each car goes. Yesterday's second trick crew has already built Tom's train, and the cars are in the right order to make things as easy as possible. Inside the raw nerve center, as the crews sometimes call it, General Agent Paul Lasky can tell you at a moment's notice where every car on the railroad is and who it's for. On his computer, which he sometimes refers to as the gunkulator, he electronically moves cars on and offline from Conrail and CSX, the Ohio Central's 2 major connections. On the computer, he can call up a screen for every track on the railroad and tell you what cars are on those tracks, whether they're loads or empties, and who they are consigned to. For example, this track shows it has some loads and empties for North Star Steel, one of the railroad's biggest customers. North Star gets empty bulkhead flats for loading the pipe they produce, and they also get loaded gongs of scrap for use in the steel-making process. Any customer who calls the railroad will undoubtedly hear
Central System, Lasky.
And it's Paul's job to keep things humming.
2 more loads on number 4 track. Okay. We got a man right on it.
Meanwhile, Tom and Porter have moved the 7574 to the Syro Steel Lead, the track where the West End train is made up. After coupling to the train and cutting in the air, Tom walks the length of the train to inspect it and to do the air test from the rear. Now, as this day goes on, you'll see that a conductor on a short line like this does a lot of walking. While Tom is walking the train, Porter calls the Conrail Youngstown line dispatcher to get a Form D, written permission to use the railroad.
Ohio Central 7574, calling the Conrail Youngstown line dispatcher, over.
The Ohio Central has trackage rights on Conrail's Lordstown secondary track, and that track is dispatched by the Youngstown line dispatcher. After copying the Form D and making the air test, they're ready to head west. The crew actually starts work here in Girard and has to go to North Warren, Ohio to do their work. From Girard to Niles, Ohio, they're on the Conrail Lordstown track. In Niles, at Belmont Street, they'll leave the Lordstown track and run a mile or so on the Niles Industrial track. Then another couple of miles on the Detour running track. All these tracks are former Pennsylvania Railroad territory. Finally, they will reach the Warren running track, the former Erie Main, where all the customers are. This is Belmont Street, and Tom is unlocking the switch that will take the train off the Lordstown track and onto the Niles Industrial track. After he opens the switch, Porter pulls the whole train by, and then Tom has to line and lock the switch for the main track. Then he has to walk the train, again, to get back to the head end for the rest of the trip.
Now 7574, clear of the Lordstown line, switches line and lock normal, over.
That'd be a Roger, clear of Lordstown line, switch line and lock normal.
There's a lot of rail business in this corridor. Steel used to be king here, and there is still some steel making in the valley. For example, both CSX and Conrail serve the Warren Consolidated Industries plant in Niles, and so far they've hung on to this lucrative business. These large customers suit the operating methods of the Class 1 railroads, which have changed over the years. Where the Class 1s used to handle both the line haul and the local switching business, they've changed their focus and now prefer to concentrate only on the line haul and larger customers like WCI. In other words, they've slowly moved into the wholesale side of the railroad business. This has provided opportunities for short lines like the Ohio Central to make a profitable niche in the rail marketplace by providing the retail service directly to smaller and medium-sized customers. For our West End crew, the first order of business is to deliver a couple of cars to Copperweld Steel and pick up an outbound load there and another at Luntz Iron and Metal. To get there, they will run on what was once the double-track Erie Railroad main line through Warren, Ohio. But because many of these former Erie tracks have been removed, there are very few places to run around a car, so a long shoving move is needed to reach Copperweld. The rest of the train is spotted back at CP War, a spot where the rails of two former competitors are now connected. The old P Company line from Warren to Ashtabula now connects with the former Erie at CP War. This sharp curve forms another connection between two former competitors. It connects the former Erie main with a B&O line that used to go to Paynesville, Ohio. The old B&O track now ends just over a mile from here, up at Copperweld. After making the delivery and pickup at Copperweld, the crew backs in and picks up the loaded gon from Luntz. Then it's back to the old Erie, the Warren running track, and visits to a few more customers. After picking up the rest of their train at War, it's highball time for a few miles as the crew heads east on the old Erie main to their next stop, Dietrich Industries. Dietrich is a good customer, but the scene waiting for the West End crew here is a sober reminder that there's a lot of competition for the movement of freight in this country. These trucks are a common sight at Dietrich, and sometimes the railroad crew has to wait for a truck to get out of the way before they can get their work done. But rail transport figures prominently in Dietrich's future business, so while the Ohio Central may give up a few loads to these guys, they get their share and are always looking for ways to get more. In a classic switching move, today's switch at Dietrich is 2 out and 2 in, meaning that the 2 boxcars in the building are loaded, so they need to go out, and 2 empties must be spotted in their place so they can be loaded for pickup tomorrow. As is the case in many plants like this, space is tight, and there are close clearances to watch for everywhere. After spotting the loads on another track, Tom carefully directs Porter on the shove back into the building with the empties. These cars have to be spotted within a foot or so in order to be in the proper position to be loaded. Porter has the brakes applied lightly on the cars, so he can stop them pretty quickly when Tom gives him the word.
That'll do, 74.
Very good. 7574, okay to pull them back. They need about 5 cars first up.
Back it up on the 74.
After spotting the empties in the building, Tom has a little sorting to do outside. Dietrich ships cars both east and west via Conrail. The cars that are headed east will go through Conrail's Conway yard near Pittsburgh. while the cars going west will go through Buckeye Yard in Columbus, Ohio. In order to make everything work smoothly on the interchange move to Conrail, the cars headed for Buckeye have to be on the rear of the train. A few quick moves on the Dietrich lead, and Tom has them sorted just right. On the move with the throttle in notch number 8, the West End crew is on the way home. But railroading can sometimes be a hurry up and wait kind of thing, and today proves to be no exception to that rule. Back at Belmont Street, Porter needs to get another Form D to use the Lordstown track to get back home. So he calls the Conrail dispatcher.
Ohio Central 7574. Calling Youngstown line dispatcher, over. Ohio Central 7574. Calling the Conrail Youngstown line dispatcher, over.
No answer. It seems that the Conrail crew on the train ahead of ours has not reported clear of the railroad as required by the rules, and the dispatcher can't give the railroad to anyone else until he knows that the track ahead is clear of preceding trains. The Ohio Central likes to keep their traffic moving, so Paul Lasky leaves the office and quickly locates the missing train. After a delay of almost an hour, the dispatcher is finally able to give the West End crew their Form D so they can head home. There used to be a lot of rail activity in this area, much more than there is now. A few remnants of that era remain, however, such as this huge concrete coaling tower. It stands as a monument to the past and the thousands of P Company steam engines that topped off their coal bunkers at this spot. After putting the train away, Porter and Tom bring the 7574 back to the office. There's only one thing left to do now: finish the paperwork. Tom has to complete his wheel report. It records exactly what cars were spotted where, at what time, and for what customer. Paul uses these wheel reports to update the computer data, and that's very important. It's how the railroad gets paid. Porter has the locomotive inspection report and the timesheet to fill out, and that's important too. It's how he and Tom get paid. Yes, this is the glamorous part of the job, handling a long train at high speed on the main line. But it's here, at small short lines and regional carriers all across the country, where you'll find the people who work in the retail side of the railroad business. It's railroading one car and one customer at a time.